Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. Lovely to see you all. Hi. Let's see who we got. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Rich, Jenny. Hi, Tamsin. Hi, Victoria. Lovely to see some familiar faces and some new faces too. Pleasantly surprised by the number of people who are available in August, because I know that it is a bit of a tricky month for a lot of people. So if you're juggling childcare or you are kind of dialing in from somewhere exotic and attending this from a holiday destination, then extra brownie points to you. Thanks so much for being here. Just going to give a couple of minutes to allow everyone to come in. It's always interesting to see who we've got. And so if you are happy to introduce yourselves in the chat, let's see if we've got any neighbors. Let's see whether we've got any people whose organizations do similar things. Always great to see some connections being made in the chat at these events. So do take a minute just to say hi in the chat. Let's see who you are, what your organization is called, what your organization does, um, whether you're working for an organization or whether you're a fundraiser independently. And let's hear where you are in the world and see if we've got any neighbors. Okay, I'm going to just start with a brief introduction to Fair Collective to those of you who aren't familiar with us. Fair Collective was founded about 10 years ago, but in its current format, as a not-for-profit business, has been running for a couple of years. We are essentially a social enterprise, a not-for-profit entity that is a matchmaker for the social goods sector. So we have over 100 associates, 100 consultants and freelancers like John, who's talking to us today, middle row, and like Wayne, who is also here to help today, bottom row. And we work with all different sizes and shapes of organizations, from large international NGOs down to your tiny local organization or unconstituted group. And although we work with organizations of all different sizes, we do tend to specialize in smaller organizations. So a lot of our clients are in that kind of under £1 million income. Essentially, we are a matchmaker. You come to us with something that you need support with, and we try to match you with our associate pool, and we try to find you someone who is the perfect fit for the project that you have. Whether that's fundraising, strategy, comms, HR, web design, graphic design, we've got someone for almost anything. We are a free service for our clients. Our day rates are by organisation income level, and at least 50% of our profits are donated either back into the small charity sector through pro bono work or through direct donations. And at the moment, our focus for donations are causes that are supporting Palestine and Gaza. And we aim for 50%, but regularly hit more like 70 or 80% of our profits being donated that way. So that's enough from me. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand over to John to introduce himself, because I do think that people tend to do a much better job of introducing themselves. And thank you for being here, John. I'm very eager to hear what you're about to talk to us about. And thank you for joining us early as well, because whilst I'm in sunny Sheffield, John is not, and it's nice and early in the morning for you, so appreciate that. All right, everyone, thank you for being here. Know that your time is super precious, so thanks for giving us some of it today, and do keep an eye out for any of our future free webinars. Cheers. All right, over to you, John.
Thank you, Vic. I really appreciate that intro. I'm John Lepp. I am actually in beautiful British Columbia this morning on a very warm summer day at 7 a.m. So really glad to join all of you fine folks. Yes, I'm John Lepp. I'm a partner at Agents of Good, and we work just like for a collective with charities and nonprofits, mostly on the smaller, medium size. Around the world these days in individual giving. So we're not channel specific, although we have a lot of direct mail experience. And I'm here to talk about direct mail because people like me and Wayne, and I'm sure a number of you, nerd out over the fascinating art form that is direct mail, especially as it relates to direct response. This is basically a truncated presentation. This is a short form of a longer presentation. At the very end, I will give you a link to the full presentation if you want to go see the whole thing. But I wanted to just chat for 20, 25 minutes-ish. Please put your questions into the Q&A. Wayne's going to be chatting with me once we're done and going over your questions. So if you think of something, just pop it into the Q&A. Wayne, is there anything you want to add before I get rocking here? No. Okay, fine. Good. Okay, so let's just get to it. What if there was a rule that you could break that would allow you to raise about 200% more in your next appeal? Would you break it? No one's nodding, but I'm assuming, okay, one person nodded. Okay, let's assume that you would break it if you knew what that rule was. What if I told you there was a rule that if you broke it, you could raise nothing? Wouldn't you want to know what that rule is? Yes, Vic, I see Vic nodding. I'll take that. Great. So that's what this session really is about. Like I said, this is a short form of a longer version, but I wanted to sort of cover off the highlight reel. This is my old boss, Steve Thomas. I found a quote from Steve. It said, more and more we're using an envelope with a signing's name in the corner. We're finding it doesn't even have to be a name anyone's heard of. We find it looks very plain compared to the flashy pieces and attracts people for a completely different reason. This is a quote from Steve from 1985, and I love the fact that I still get together with Steve every so often, and can say to him, "Listen, this idea of yours still works. This is a very effective DM piece." You know, Steve. What I learned from Steve was he was never afraid to break the rules of how you should go about doing things, and I've picked that up through my career as well. And I love to do things that definitely break the common rules of how you should do things, not because I just like to, but because testing tells me I should. I try different things and I can see the effectiveness of trying different things. And the whole idea is we want to dominate, our donors' mailbox, especially if we're doing direct mail or our doormats of our donors, right? Derek Humphreys always said that. Dominate the doormat of your donors. You should be always trying to think, how can I dominate that doormat so they can't help but look at my thing I sent them first. So the three little sections of this presentation is I'm going to talk about intelligence, obsession, and creativity. Intelligence where we use our brains and our hearts to think about what we're doing and why. In other words, we're connected thoughtfully, intentionally to our work. Obsession, we think about this craft and we commit to being lifelong students of this craft. There's a few of us on here who have been lifelong students. You cannot do this work off the corner of your desk. You really need to just get your hands into it. And creativity, we aren't just checking boxes. We're here to be playful and thoughtful. So let's talk about obsession first, okay? Obsessive means you want to learn as much as you can about this craft. Now, I don't have 4 hours to do a historical look at direct response, but I want share a few examples of it from across the ages because I find it really so fascinating. I also want to point out that there's virtually nothing new, really, in direct response fundraising. This has been done for a long, long time. So stop trying to find the next big bucket challenge. You don't need to. There's a lot of great resources and ideas out there. So here's one from St. Paul. This is like the St. Paul, like from the Bible and stuff. And this is like a direct appeal to his followers from the New Testament. And he talks about on the first day of every week, each one of you should set up aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up. So when I come, no collections will have to be made. So he's out here looking for monthly donors. This is from the Bible. Okay, so that's cool. Here we have another one from a fellow named Ihai Dogen, which was a Buddhist sage, and he wrote this letter to raise funds for a training center for monks. This piece, which I won't go through, but is in the presentation, it's brilliant direct response and targeting. His ask is direct and urgent, which is we need to, build this monks hall like right now. This is what it's going to look like. This is why we need it, and you can support it. So this is from again 1500s or something. I dug out this example from 1941 from London. This was during the height of the Blitz and during the wartime. In this newly completed Southwood building at the Great Ormond Street Hospital was hit by a bomb. So no one was hurt, but the hospital was completely demolished. So even though war was just starting to rage there in the UK, they got this appeal out right away to rebuild the hospital. And this outer envelope is absolutely brilliant. If I could capture this today, this would absolutely dominate a mailbox. It says, please open carefully. It's closed face. It has a handwritten name and address on it, first class postage. You are going to open this envelope. The appeal letter, when you read the appeal letter, you can really imagine the devastation that people would have felt when this new hospital that was just built was bombed and completely destroyed. And it conveys the drama of the day extremely vividly. It says, we've also, during some of the most savage raids on London stood, a citadel of healing, ringed around a living furnace of fire. That is brilliant prose. I love it. And it's also brilliant presenting the problem, which we need to have in fundraising, as we know, which was the hospital was bombed and we have to get it reopened to help children. And the solution was if you can help us repay some of the debt for the rebuilding, we can do just that. So please send us a Christmas gift if your heart and wallet will allow it. And it was urgent, right? The war was raging around, but nothing was more important than taking care of the next generation of children. So Lord Southwood here didn't know a lot about underlining and all these other rules we're supposed to do, but he was writing from his heart, which is the best kind of fundraising letter. They also included a little matchbook with a piece of rubble in it from the bombed hospital, which is an absolute brilliant, brilliant extra piece to put in, and some photographs. Again, you can really get the sense this appeal would still absolutely kick ass today. It would raise you a ton of money, and this is almost 100 years old. One last example, this is using like a non-human voice in fundraising. People think that we came up with this idea. People know Agents of Good. We do this a lot in our work, and we didn't. This is from 1880, and Help was a railway dog, and he became the very first railway collecting dog. He had this like wooden collecting box around him, attached like a saddle with a collar with a message, I am Help, the railway dog of England, a traveling agent to help orphans of railway men who were killed in duty. So these examples I've actually grabbed off a fantastic resource called Sophie. I hope that all of you have heard of Sophie before. If you're not, you can scan this QR code. It will take you there. Go to it, look at it, give to it, support it, donate to it. It's a fantastic library of inspiration and innovation. Obviously, other places you can seek inspiration and knowledge are things like conferences, blogs, podcasts. There's so many places, and please take all the extra time you have. Again, once you've had time with your family and your spouse or whatever you and stuff, with your leftover time, you need to be reading and learning about these things. It's all out there for the taking. My point is, I literally lie awake at night thinking about like things like envelopes and like techniques all the time. Steven Screen, my friend here in the US, he calls it tactic stacking. The more I know about all the aspects of this craft, and you as well, the more money you will raise and the more change you'll create in this world. So, how many different tactics can I stack into my appeals to get the best result? So, to round this a little bit out, seek out and learn from the past. It's all there. You just need to go find it. It's all the answers you're looking for are there. There are no original ideas. Don't try to come up with any more. You don't need to. Find something that worked really well and make it better. Work off of it, riff off of it. And the more tactics and techniques you know and when to use them, the more effective and more money raising your stuff will be. So intelligence, this is where we use our brains and hearts to think about what we're doing and why. And this is about data, it's about science, experience, knowledge. It's about objectivity, not subjectivity. What Ashley in accounting thinks or what Bobby the board member likes or doesn't like, I don't care. I don't care. There's no room for any of that in this work. So let's talk about some key factors. Like this is key factors in direct response and direct mail. These are truths and facts. Like it or not, these are your donors. In the UK, you have about 170,000 charities that you're all competing with. Here in Canada, I have about 86,000 charities. If you are in the United States, you have about 1.5 million charities. So very, very different numbers. But most often not, the age range of most donors, especially when you talk about male, is between 65 and 95 years old. In the UK, 73% of them are female or women. And online, it's really, especially with the UK, I did some searching around. Wayne, I meant to ask you before we kicked off exactly, for how many donors are giving online these days. With COVID, we found that number, of course, went up a little bit, but Blackbaud, the last time I saw a number from Blackbaud in the US, it was like 13% of all giving happens online. But we definitely know that mail is a massive driver for online giving. So we can't just take it out. And I've seen charities, especially in the last couple of months, just go, we're not going to do mail anymore because we never liked it anyways. We'll just go online because it does good enough. I'm not here to do good enough. We're here to do the best we can. Also, I want to point out, visual impairment. Most people over the age of 45, and I'm looking at a couple people on this call, we wear these glasses, right? I don't want to argue with comms people about why we should be putting 14-point type in letters. I'm not having an argument. So we need to acknowledge who our donors are. Where are they at they have arthritis in their hands. Why are we giving them tiny little boxes to somehow fill out? You're hurting them by putting them in these little things that, again, serve someone's needs, but not theirs. So there's four key things as it relates to direct response. That's list, offer, timing, and creative. 40%, not 50, I'm wrong here. 40% of the success or failure depends on the people you're trying to talk to. In other words, if you think you're trying to talk to people like this, but actually you're mailing a bunch of millennials who love chugging wine at your events, your DM piece is probably going to fail. Okay, so you need to know who's on my list, where do they come from, what do they care about, and why are they going to care about that thing I'm talking to them today? Which leads me to offer. The thing you're asking them for can make or break your appeal. A classic direct response offer is give us $7 now or the dog gets it. It's classic because it's really clear on what the problem is. It's clear on what the solution is, which is the donor has to give $7. The action is, of course, is to give it, and we need it now, or the dog is going to. It's very blunt, but it's blunt for a reason because it works. You need to understand what is your dog when you appeal to donors and how much it's going to take to make sure they don't get it. You have timing. I love my agency friends who are very actively, especially here in North America, working on their holiday appeals in the middle of June, sweat pouring down their faces with Christmas carols in the background. Timing of the appeal and asking for the right thing at the right time in your donor's life is super, super important. If you get the timing wrong, in other words, if you mail that holiday appeal in September, good luck. It could be a difficult job. And creative, of course, creative matters. I'm a creative person. I like to think it's the only thing that matters, but it's not. There's more important things than just the creative expression. So, in other words, some of the things I'll talk to you about later on, it only is part of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. Lastly, is decision science. I know I'm running through this really, really quickly because I do want to get to questions as soon as I can. But it's important I talk about these things. There's three things that influence our decisions, all humans. It's the past, it's our brains, and it's the world around us. So the past, for a long, long time ago, we were constantly scanning our environments. We're protecting ourselves from any kind of risk. Is that a stick? Is it a snake? Is it going to attack me? Is it a lion, Vic, coming up behind you? It fuels us to be cautious. We need to do whatever we can to stay away from loss and failure. This is ingrained in us as humans. We can't escape it. Things like preserving our species, we do what we can survive. Like we're always attracted to things in short supply. That's scarcity mindset. And we need to do things with urgency. If it's not urgent, then it's not that important. So we can use this, of course, and we do it all the time in our fundraising, having a message where there's only a few hours left to go. Oh my God, time is running out. I better get onto this, right? So this is how we use these things in our appeals to raise more money. And we've always been a species on the move. We need to move together. We need to feel like we're part of a group. We don't, God forbid, we're cast out or away. So we do what others do naturally, which is a form of social proof. Again, this is something we should use in our fundraising all the time. We are a collection, a community of people. Your donors are to your cause. So how do you make them feel like they're part of this community? Don't cast them out. And then there's the brain. Neuroscience is so frigging cool because it really allows us to see in real time how our minds respond to decision making. It gives us clues about why certain biases or heuristics affect us. So things like fight or flight, different social behaviors, gratitude, the way memories are encoded in our brains. These are things that our brain does that do come into play in our work. And so there's how we move through our day. I always tell the story of my daughter Jules, who just finished learning how to drive. When she was learning how to drive, she had to like get in the car. She had to take the key and put in the ignition, put her foot on the brake, turn the. So what she's doing is she's using a very system two thinking. It's very analytical. It's rational. It's really slow. You don't want donors thinking that way when they get your appeals. You want them using system one thinking, which is automatic, intuitive, fast. Oh, yeah, here's this math hack from this Cherry Lab. Oh, yeah, here's a reply form. All right, I'll just put the check in the box and off it goes. You don't want to slow them down. We create so much friction in our work all the time that slows them down for giving. This idea of heuristics, these are like mental shortcuts our brains take so we can make quick decisions. We are inherently lazy. We don't want to spend half an hour making decisions. Like, what are we going to do? What burger do I want? What's am I supposed to do here? Okay, good. So why would you want to walk around the corner when you can cut through it? So how do we use this in our work? Well, familiarity is one heuristic, which I do like, which is this helps me decide amongst a range of choices. And familiarity makes me go towards something that seems like the safest or most known option versus one that I don't know anything about. In other words, if you're a small charity that has never done a DM piece and you're sending it out against, say, a heart and stroke or something like that, you have to compete against that. Donors are going to gravitate to what they know because it's simple, it's fast. The anchoring heuristic, which is another one, it makes us consider the very first piece of usually financial information given to you or number information as a basis for all future decision making. So on this envelope, I put the offer rate on the outside. So immediately don't automatically understands that $1 will make three meals. That's great. Any donor can get behind that. So it makes a very effective envelope and a great way to present the offer. It turns out there's a lot apparently of cognitive biases that are at work in our lives every single day. Like this is 168 different cognitive biases that you can find online. But humans have a tendency to simplify information by processing it through our own personal experiences and our preferences to make quick decisions. Just a couple before I move out of this, which is like one is the IKEA effect, which is one of my favorites. We value something, the more effort we put into it, that goes for your Billy bookcase, the relationships you put into your donors, the love and heart and creativity you flow into your direct response program. So the more you put into it, the more you're going to value it. There's another one that I love, pareidolia, one of my favorite ones. Pareidolia is this phenomenon which we see, like I do faces and everything all the time. They actually tested this. A bunch of decision science nerds tested this, and they took that like donation jar at a store and like it put eyeballs on it and put it back out, and it instantly started to raise more money because it had eyeballs on it. So I can tell you, complete certainty through my career, I put eyeballs on friggin' almost everything, and I always raise more money because we can't help but interact with things with eyeballs. So I love that. And lastly, there's the real world. There's like the real world influences our behavior and decision making. In other words, how donors act socially in Norway is very different than the way donors act in, say, here Canada, because there's different social norms, but we're conditioned by the real world around us. So there's cultural factors, social factors, emotional factors. I'm telling you that using techniques around decision science like this is like rocket fuel in your fundraising. Okay, there's no reason why you guys can't. I'm probably the most. I was going to say the dumbest person. I'm the most simplest person probably on this call, and I can understand a lot of these ideas. We have a lot of people making it very complicated, but I'm here to sort of change it so I can understand it and use it in my fundraising all the time. When you use things like decision science, you reduce friction. You make it easy for people to engage with the one decision you want them to make, which is to give to you. You also increase the motivation to do it because you make it so easy for them to do it. So the more you can understand about decision science, the better off your fundraising is going to be. And I know like this is a lot. Like I'm only talking for 15 minutes. I'm throwing so much stuff at you right now, constantly. And that's the whole point actually, is that it is a lot. This work is a fucking ton. This isn't for the faint of heart. This isn't for that ignorant board member who just doesn't like it. I don't care. You need to understand these things because it will make your fundraising better and you will raise more funds for the very important missions that you all work for. So this craft is a science and an art form. I please do everything you can to steer clear of people who use subjectivity in their decision making. And the way we make decisions and choices cannot be changed. You cannot argue with who we are as human beings. Okay, in the home stretch in this short little presentation, creativity. Please, people, we aren't here to check boxes. I'm asking you to be playful and thoughtful in your work. And this is the part you probably came for anyways. I probably should have started here, but that's boring. So I want to finish with this. How and why do we break rules? And I've just got a few examples I want to show you. And this is not exhaustive, but just to give you a taster of some of the things you can think about. How do we break rules? Well, knowing which rules are at play and which ones you want to play with, you're making an intentional decision on how do I do this? Which ones do I want to play with first? And why we break them? Because usually when you break rules, it should get you more attention and hopefully a positive action. So here's a couple of rules we broke and some rules that we followed. This is for our friends at the British Columbia Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the BCSPCA. And this was for the very last mailing of the year. This was like the holiday appeal actually did very, very well for us, which was fantastic, but we still wanted to do a follow-up appeal, sort of a reminder. And so this is what we did. This was the outer envelope that we sent out. And what are some rules we broke? Well, we did a very large envelope. It had no logo on it. It had no tagline on it and no photo on it. So this is going to look very strange compared to a lot of the mail I'm sure you see in the UK. And this was the back. On the back, we used the paw print as a sort of label. Sort of paw print with this little label on the top of it. And this is one way to dominate a mailbox, which is to do something wildly unexpected. This looks very different than I'm sure most mail packs you get most of the time. So the letter we sent out, well, one rule we broke was it came from a dog, which was very different. I'll read just a little tiny bit. Ruff, it's me, Zoe. Shh, my dad Craig doesn't know I'm writing to you. He's busy helping animals right now, but I really wanted to know how important you are. If I could, I'd give you a big sloppy kiss. You help save animals just like me. It's a very engaging, short letter. Of course, he's a dog, so he's not going to spend a lot of time, but we changed the voice. We changed to use a very unexpected voice. It had, again, no branding for the SPCA, and we also included a bounce back. But this is an example of some things you can do, an example of voice. Again, the way you can creatively use something. Also, if there's any designers here, I also broke one other kind of cardinal rule as it relates to designers. Usually, if I'm in a room, I'd ask you if anyone's actually spotted it. The rule that I broke here as a designer is I used Comic Sans, right? And this like no designer, real designer uses Comic Sans. Well, if a dog's not going to use Comic Sans, like who would use Comic Sans? A dog would, because that's hilarious, right? So we use Comic Sans in this letter, which is awesome. I love Comic Sans for things like this. And here in the reply form, we didn't really break any rules here per se, but what we did was we include the space for donors to actually write back a very simple emotional note. We do this a lot. I'm always trying to create space for donors to talk back to us as an organization. They have their own stories, they have their own conversations. The key, if you do things like this, is make sure you ask a very quick emotional question. Don't ask them like, how would you solve world hunger? Just ask them about like a memory they have of a dish from their parents or something. It has to be a very quick, simple, emotional question. Here's one last example of fundamental and foundational fundraising that works. So much of the mail that I see in the UK is overly professional. It's tight. God damn, it's tight. It's so commercial looking. And so doing something like this could completely change the results of your mailing because it looks so personal. So some rules that I broke with this one, which is, yes, it looks extremely personal. I had Jackie, the ED, write out her name and return address, and I scanned that in and I used that on the outer envelope. It was closed face. We didn't have a window. I didn't want it to look like a bill. So we lasered the donor's name and address on the front. And the stamp, for stamps here, I'm not certain you have this in the UK, but I can use different images on stamps like this. And so if you live in Ontario, Canada, where I can have a place there, at certain times of year, you know what these are. They're lilacs and they're everywhere. And instantly, like just me saying lilacs, I can smell them, and almost everyone who would get the smell would know exactly what it is and would get that smell immediately. I'm trying to move into some senses. This is an idea of like salience. It's really the only thing that has some prominence in this whole outer envelope, just like the paw print. How can you use salience in your appeals? The appeal was two pages. We know from testing that 4 pages or longer. I know younger people on this call want it short and sweet and half a page because no one reads anything anymore. Your donors do, okay? Longer almost always does better in testing. It looked like a real letter. There was no real design. And the appeal, it says, the first thing I noticed, it was eerily silent. Normally, you hear all kinds of hums, clicks, beeps in an operating room, the telltale kerchunk of the X-ray machine scanning a patient. But not today. Rachel just got back from an urgent visit to the OR, and a vital piece of equipment broke down, and we need to replace it ASAP. So it looks personal. This appeal tapped into all the senses: smell, sound, sight, touch. I was really trying to evoke a different kind of reaction from donors. We did things like make sure we had a really good offer, which was we knew we needed to get this C-arm. We knew it was $198,000. We anchored that idea. It's a high number, but for donors who are giving, 50 to dollars and up, they understand the value of $198,000. It's not that scary. Anchoring can be good and bad. You have to know when you're doing it. I've seen charities who don't actually realize that they're anchoring a number so high that they're actually turning people away. A little shout out to my TikTok channel. I used to do a lot of like Dale's Mails TikToks, which I've moved away from for various reasons, which I won't discuss right now. Anyways, this was a pack that she got right on the very front. It said 2.2 million children in Ethiopia are facing starvation, needless disability, and death. 2.2 million is such a massive anchor. She didn't open this envelope. I did because I wanted to see how bad it got on the inside. She didn't bother. No, this number was too big for her. She can't fix a problem that's 2.2 million children. That's crazy. So be aware that when you're doing it, a couple last little things. I always include a photograph of the letter signer. It's not typical by any means, but again, when a donor reads the letter and they flip it over to look at the back and the PS, they see a face. They can imagine the person who's talking to them, the person who's trying to have this conversation with them today. So it's a small little thing you can do. And of course, the Flesh Kincaid scoring. Please run your letters. Make sure your reading ease. The numbers I've circled here are the reading ease, which should be around 80% or higher. You're looking for a grade level of between 4 and 6. Don't let your PhD bosses write the appeal letters because not only will they be boring as shit, no one will be able to understand anything that's going on. And you don't want your donors to feel stupid, like this is too complex of a problem for me. I'm not smart enough to understand this. That's not a good look for any charity. Reply form, full size. I do full size reply forms as I know you do quite a lot in the UK because they work. It's been tested over and over again. Don't do anything other than full size. We only ask for a single gift because, again, from testing, if you start asking for monthly and a bunch of other things, analysis paralysis kicks in, you will lose gifts. I make sure my reply forms are very much personalized. The reply form is your donor to talk back to you. The letter is for you to talk to them. The reply form is for them to reply back to you. Okay, so this piece is for them. A couple other last little things that I've done here. We included this idea of using the $198,000 because we knew exactly how much we needed to raise. Now, yes, if I'm a $50 donor, I'm probably not going to give you $198,000. I might, but probably not. But probably I'll give you a little bit more than I usually do because I understand totally how much you need to raise for this appeal. So we see that all the time. Putting the whole number on the reply form actually increases your average gift. Something else you can do is circling the amount. This amount would really make a difference. I had a client who actually did this in her appeal. They were a small charity out here in Vancouver Island, and they did this in-house by themselves. They 2/3 of all the gifts that came back checked that box. The reason why this is important is because that means that 2/3 of all the donations came back upgraded their last gift. And that's why you do it. So you don't do these things all the time. But I know comms people don't like this handwriting nonsense and like whatever. I don't care. My job is to raise funds for missions that need funding. And donors want to do it, and I let them do it by doing some of these things. Lift notes, I could do a whole presentation on lift notes, but I'm not going to do it today. But we include this really simple lift note with just a photograph and had Jackie just write out her appreciation and why this thing was so important. It wasn't pretty, but it definitely did the job. And donors can now see the thing that you're trying to raise funds for. Super, super easy. Okay, one last little super hack before I go. I want to just talk about this is one thing. If you reach into your toolbox and you're looking for the biggest wrench to maybe use, it's this. Okay. Years ago, I worked with David Love, who's my business partner's dad, and him and I are working for this organization called CARC, Canadian Arctic Resource Committee. And basically, what they did is they operate up in the North Pole and they save caribou from things like oil tankers. They were protecting the environment and the caribou and stuff. And so we were like, what if Santa Claus wrote penned this really angry letter? Because he's pissed, right? He's like trying to get everyone ready for Christmas. The freaking tankers are like spilling oil. His reindeer are falling ill and getting sick. And he's angry. And he wrote this really angry letter. And so we presented this to the client, and they were like, no, no chance. This is no chances. We're sending our charities, we're important scientists and we're talking about important things. We're like, yeah, but this is we want to break through that. We want donors to actually take a look and notice it. So I don't know how to this day, I don't know how David did it. Somehow he's a great account person. He sold the client on this idea and we did it and they raised a shit ton of money for their charity and their mission. And that's really what it's about us getting out of the way of our own professional bull crap and actually raising funds for a charity. Some people go using Santa Claus, maybe is a bit offside. I've used Santa Claus quite a bit. We did a mailing for the Lung Association. Santa decided he was going to give up his pipe. Finally, thank you, Santa. And he was appreciated to have the Lung Association around to support him in his journey of quitting smoking, and donors were obviously a part of that. The Hearing Foundation, Santa Claus talked about, we stop creating these loud toys for our kids because they're hurting hearings, and he was committed to making sure. But as parents, please don't buy loud toys for your kids. Perfect person to make that ask and tell that story. It's not offside of use Santa Claus. There are people out there been using Santa Claus for a long time, definitely since the wartime, to make money. And if you can do it, you should do it. If Santa Claus is not right for your organization, totally get it. But try to think of a different kind of voice, some voice that's a little out there to tell your stories and to ask for funds from donors. And they will sit up and they'll listen. So it's your super hack. So what sort of fundraiser do you want to be? Don't come in and just check boxes and go home and drink wine. I mean, you can do that too, but I'm really asking for people to participate in this stuff that they're creating. What rules can you break and which ones do you need to leave alone? I didn't get into a lot of that today, but again, I go into it on the video if you go there. And are you willing to try the super hack? If any of you on this call, and I say this all the time, and I've had people send me stuff, if you've ever go there, you decide to sit down, again, maybe have a little glass of rosé and just like let your brain go. Just be creative. No one's judging you. No one's approving anything. If you try it for your organization, please send it to me. I would love to see it. I'm building a great presentation and thinking about a book as well of some really great examples from people like you who are really trying to do things a bit different and the delight that donors have when they actually get your pieces in the mail. So, some final thoughts is which are not all rules need to be broken. Some are just fine. Just leave them exactly the way they are. But you need to know what they are to know which ones you should leave alone and which ones you can break. Definitely deviate away from the norm. Don't do what everyone else is doing. God, this world is so boring. Try different things. Fail once in a while. Don't worry, your donors aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to hate you because you tried something a bit different. Never stop learning. I've been doing this for over 25 years and I still learn things every single day that fascinate me to no end. Ask for help. You're a part of this amazing community called the Fair Collective. There's people like Vic, Wayne, me, all of us, we're here to help. Reach out, ask us a question. I'm always happy to answer anything, anytime. Be playful. We used to be, as kids, we learned how to play and we weren't worried about anything, about anyone approving the blocks and the way we were putting them together. Try to go back to that place that we had as children. Don't be afraid of trying some different things. Ask questions. Be curious and believe in yourself. Your work matters very, very, very much, increasingly so. But also, you matter increasingly so every single day. Believe in yourself. You are doing amazing. Despite the state of the world in our sector, I see you. and I appreciate everything that you all do every single day. When you stop thinking of donors as data, when you write that letter and the tears are absolutely pouring out of your eyeballs, when you lift the phone in joy knowing you're going to have an amazing conversation with a donor who cares so much about you today, when you focus on the things that they make possible for your organization and you celebrate that, you're living your life emotionally, lovingly, and fully. So please do your work with love every single day. Thank you for letting me race through that presentation very quick. If you do want a full copy of the presentation, like I said, you can scan this QR code. I have a free resource page on our website. There's a couple other things you can download, take away if you want, a love story, a bunch of other things. Check it out. Yes, I've written this book called Creative Deviations. Buy it. If you do buy it, don't give me 2 stars on Amazon like a few people have. I don't know why people do that. I think it's a good book full of great creative examples and things that will hopefully inspire you more in your day. And that is all I have for you in this presentation.
Oh, John, that was fantastic. If this was in person, I'd be going in for the full hug, like straight up.
Oh,
That was amazing. I think as fundraisers, we all sometimes need to hear that we're actually doing some good. So, as well as the incredible content there, just a bit of validation that our job is valid is really good. Just quickly for those of you who don't know me, I'm Wayne. I'm part of Fair Collective. I also run a consultancy called Humanic Squared. Been in the sector since last century. Do a lot of things around organizational design now, but spent a long time as a fundraiser, and an enormous amount of my career and my passion has been around individual giving. So this presentation for me had 4 things that I absolutely loved. 1 was breaking rules, 2 is nerds, 3 is IG, and 4 is John Lepp. So they say you shouldn't always meet your heroes, but it's good to every now and again. The man, the myth, the regular gift, as I like to call it. So what would be great is if John has very kindly said that if there are any specific questions to put them in the chat and we can go through them. But whilst the ball is rolling there, I thought I'd just ask a couple of questions myself. And I think, John, what really struck me when you showed some of those historical examples was just the real clarity of the storytelling. And a lot of what you're saying in terms of rule breaking is kind of stripping away bullshit and getting back to kind of truth and simplicity, which I think is incredible. So I suppose the first question that I would ask you is why do you think DM and storytelling in particular has become so complicated and off-putting for a lot of people?
You know what? I'm going to blame the consultants mostly. People, businesses want to make money, and the more complicated we can make things means the less people that can understand it, and therefore the more they need to hire us. Like that's one thing I definitely pin it on. My personal feeling is that I want the more we all can understand. Like that. The more I understand something, the more empowered I feel, the better I feel about myself, and the more I feel of creative freedom to try different things. So like things like decision science, which I've been trying to get my head around intellectually and express it. Like on my LinkedIn posts, I've been trying to express it simple ways so we can understand it. I just feel like we've lost our way in the mix of consultants, and I find there's a lot of people out there who just want to make things overly complicated where they don't need to be, because this work actually is very straightforward. Even Ken Burnett always said like 90% of this work is common sense.
Mm.
It really is. It really, really is. You don't need to know all the rules to do it effectively.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really good to remember. Yeah. Another thing that really struck me, John, and then I'll trawl through some of the questions that are coming through now, is that you focus very specifically on that demographic. I think it was 65 to 95, which I think is absolutely key. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, is as those people die, as they will do you think the motivations of people replacing them within those demographics are going to be responsive to DM in the way that the previous generation were, or are things going to change there? Which is a big old sort of question you'd expect from me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, everything that I've seen, so we all know generationally people give a little bit differently on different from different perspectives and different places internally so, but the behavior of people, like I did a presentation the other day for our friends in Australia, getting mail is a bit novel again for most of us. Like maybe not for your donors, like in the US, if you're a donor in the US, you can get between 30 to 40 mail appeals a day. So like here in Canada during the holidays, Dale, my mother-in-law, she gets 30 to 40 a week, which I think would be probably similar to you in the UK. So she gets a lot of this stuff. So I talk about like, we all want to have connections with other humans. I don't want to talk to another fucking computer. I'm not interested in, and neither
Yeah.
neither is she. So I'm always trying to think, how can I make sure that when she gets that mail appeal from me, it feels human and stuff. So I'd like to think that behavior is never going to change. It's only going to increase in time with the advent of all this stupid stuff we keep creating that affects us even more and more every single day. We get further and further and further away from each other in the pursuit of something. And I like to think that the more we can be humans to these humans that we call donors, um, that will never change. So that will always be the competitive advantage, increasingly so. So no, I don't know if for me when I get signed to be 70 years old, will I do the same behaviors that 70 years old today do? I don't know, but there seems to be the suggestion that yes, people like to gravitate towards places where there's human connection more and more and less where there's less human connection.
All about the humanic, John. Lovely stuff. There's some. I hope you're seeing all the praise for you in the chat. People are
No,
really
but thank
pumped
you.
and loving for it. Maybe we can send you some of that afterwards. There's a lot of questions around. Fair Collective predominantly is around small charities who may not have an established IG program but are interested in kind of setting stuff up, and especially in the current climate, having a broad portfolio is really, really important. But what advice would you give to kind of small teams or solo fundraisers who have not done individual giving before about how you get a list going in the first place? Any hacks or quick tips there?
Okay, I mean, good question. This is something in our work we do face. It is tough. I mean, if you're trying to start a create program from nothing and you don't feel like you have anyone to really talk to, and mail is expensive. Again, this is not the cheapest way to talk to people. It's some work, right? But you do have people around you. Like there are past board members, volunteers, people may have given here and there, friends and family care. Again, you can start there, but it's a tough, like most of, I don't know about you, Wayne, but most of what we do is with charities who kind of have a bit of an established IG program, because building them from scratch, that's a tough brief, right? To take on, because you've got to invest a lot. You better have some money behind you to really invest in growing that program, even if you are a bit smaller. But your competitive advantage will always be that you have the ability to be human to other humans. Every charity that was ever created, 48 hours before they were founded, there was a human or a group of humans going, "Fuck it, this cannot exist in our world anymore, and we're gonna do something about it. Are you with me? Yeah, I'm with you. Are you with me? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go." Like, and you have that community around you. You just need to bring people to you and lead them and guide them in that. Let's get behind this, whatever it is you're trying to battle or fight, and collect people around that, rally them around that. But the more human you can do it, don't worry about how professional you're supposed to be in that is kind of my thing. Donors aren't interested in talking to a professional who doesn't want to like unbutton their shirt and stuff. None of us do. So it's about human raw emotions, about being vulnerable, being emotional. You're an organization. You actually do need to ask people for help in some capacity.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And if you rewind every individual giving program back to the beginning, it was one person asking another person for help, right? And if we can, keep that spark of truth alive, that's the way to do it. There's a few questions around. Do you have any advice for individual given programs that may have stalled, or there's not been someone in place for a while? People have gone cold. What they should do about getting in touch with ex and current donors, what would be the best way to start after a hiatus?
To start, just get back into. We do with organizations where again someone left or got fired or personnel change, and no one we couldn't find anyone to take on the program, and donors just sat there. Well, get back to them. Like again, one of my colleagues said, like donors are adults, okay? Like we don't need to treat them like freaking babies. Say we had someone who was doing this for a while, you've not heard from us for a while. We're really apologetic. Our mission is still running. We're still here trying to do good in this world, and we're back. We'd love to re-engage and talk to you about that again. You're having conversations with other humans, so just have conversations. Just lean into it.
Yeah.
Lean into it. So again, this donors aren't going anywhere. Again, they don't even know. Like people talk about like, oh, did a donor lapsed? Be cautious about that. A donor doesn't always, they're not that into you. They're not keeping track. Some donors do keep track, but they're not keeping track of the last time you sent them something, right? They're not really that paying that much attention. They could not give to you for 2 or 3 years and not even realize it. So don't necessarily assume you're a lapsed donor, and we want to be really cautious about how you talk to people, right? Just like friends, I would never say, "Hey Vic, we haven't talked for 3 months. You're lapsed. You're a lapsed friend. Like, what can I do to re-engage your friendship?" No, I'll be like, oh, fucking Vic, it's been forever. Let's catch up. What's going on with you? So just be human. It really is about being human. Just lean into it. And the more you can do it, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I worked on a campaign once where there was a segment of regular givers who never upgraded but never lapsed. They were impervious to upgrades, and the charity in question called them serial rejectors. I was like, these guys are the backbone of your program. Like, there's a $1 million question. Do you want the $1 million question here? I was waiting for this one to come up, John. Do you have any advice for navigating the tension of when creative ideas get pushed back from operational staff who have different assessments of what is ethical and appropriate? Should fundraisers always be guided by frontline staff in this? Over to you, my friend. F-bomb away.
Who asked? Who asked this question?
This is Becky Hurdle. Oh no, it was Becky replied to that. It was Jenny Benson.
Jenny, believe me when I say this to be true. If I had the answer to this question, I would not be sitting here talking to you. I would be living on a beach in a really big mansion and enjoying my highs every single day. I'm the worst person at trying to convince people who believe something to be true that it's not true. And that's also a bias. There are a bias out there where, again, if I believe something is true, I don't care what proof you have, I'm never going to believe it. All I can tell you as a fundraiser is try to avoid these people, find out who they are and avoid them as quickly as possible. But it is tough to like take some of these ideas. We're all sitting here learning about this stuff today. It is frustrating to me that we have people around us who are getting in the way of us just doing our best work with passion and care and love and intention. And I wish I could give you all the magical solution on how to convince people to do something that is right, but they just don't want to believe it. This is why our sector is in the place it's been in, because we do have, unfortunately, a number of people who are operating with good intentions, I would like to believe, but really are stifling actual growth everywhere, not just in your country, but everywhere. So again, it's a flippant answer, but I don't have an answer. But all I can do is try to find spaces and people you can work with and collaborate with. Seek out the people doing different things. Look at the proof of what they're doing, and try things for your organization. And keep pushing for change. Keep pushing for just being more human to these humans we talk to, because that's what they deserve. I deserve it.
Absolutely. Keep fighting, one step at a time. Someone else here, Rich, talking about, do you have any advice on how to balance getting creative without undermining existing branding or tone of voice, especially as a small charity with limited levels of recognition? Does it even matter if the appeal is strong enough in the first place?
I mean, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about marketing comms. That sounds again flippant. I make the joke that like marketing comms departments are where unicorns and rainbows go to die, and good ideas too, by the way. It's like what have we done here to ourselves? Why is being professional and overly branded, or why is process more important than storytelling?
Mhm.
What are we doing? Like what? I don't get it. The only way forward is to go back to where we were 40 years ago. I do look to some of my mentors and stuff who were doing this a long time ago, and the work they were outputting was freaking brilliant. Again, you look at Sophie, you don't have to look further than 40 years, but you can go further than that if you wish. But there's stuff they were doing was absolutely freaking brilliant. And I don't know where we lost our way. I do, and it's just too complicated for me to explain. But I don't know what happened in our world that we decided that being capitalistic, scarcity mindset, professional robots seem to be the more important way forward than actually just being sloppy, fucking messy humans to one another. I don't know. I don't get it. But at least as a consultant, I have that privileged position where I can choose that work. I choose to do
Mm.
work in that space and to try to help my charities find that space. And it's a psychological battle some days to convince people to get there, because we're all broken by this system that we seem to be living in at the moment. So sorry, that's a really deep question. Find me
It's
find
a
me in the hallway at a conference and let's grab a drink. We'll just go for it.
Sounds like
So,
an offer. All right, we got a slightly more simple one here. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but do you have any guidance on appeal frequency and quantity?
yeah, good question. I mean, I think you're looking for a lot of charities. If you're smaller, I understand that you can only really do a holiday appeal. If you're only doing a holiday appeal at Christmas because it is expensive to do, try to do a reminder. Like try to do something simple that can go within 2 or 3 weeks from the main appeal to your best donors. You're getting 80% of your revenue from 20% of your donors. So send those donors that reminder pack. It can be more simple, cheap, and cheerful. But a follow up, hey, we mailed you a couple weeks ago. If you sent a gift, amazing. But we're trying to make sure this appeal is as great as we can for the very important mission that we're doing. Please give. Try to add in a reminder and look at how that does. Measure it. Oh, it did actually really freaking well. Okay. Well, we got a little more trust here. Maybe we should try something else. Let's try to do, say, a spring appeal or something like that. So again, you're just trying to build. If you're only doing 2 appeals, you should be trying to do 3. If you're doing 5 appeals, you probably could do 7 or 8. But these things are measurable. Also, just because you do an appeal in the springtime about teen mental health and it bombs doesn't mean that mailing, you stop doing that mailing. Okay. You can't look at these things in isolation. I ask my charities to measure the bottom line of all the channels. Okay. You can't just go, mail's not working. Whoa, 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 slow your roll there. Just because your mail isn't working, you don't, unless you're measuring it, people are going online to give to you. It does matter and stuff. So measure the bottom line of all of your channels, all of your efforts, and determine your success or failure of that. But if you're doing 2 or 3 appeals, try to do 4 or 5. Can we add a newsletter? Can we separate this out? Should we do a reminder to these 2 main appeals that we know are our main flagship appeals? There's always room to add a bit more and try something out. Try it for just part of the audience and see how it does. Measure it. Maybe you want to scale up next time. But there's always
Brilliant.
room to the bottom line that people say all the time is the more you ask, the more you get. Okay, and that's true of anything. But you need to make sure your donors are being thanked appropriately in very quick order after giving to your appeal. That's key. And you're telling them what you did with their gift. If you don't know how to tell them what you did with their $50, don't bother asking because donors aren't interested in throwing the money into a black hole. So you need to know what the impact of their gift had, but you need to thank them and tell them the impact of their gift as quickly as possible. A handwritten thank you card is chef's kiss. 48 hours, don't overthink it, make it emotional, make it feelings, and get it to them. No one does it. No one does it. So do
Yeah,
it. Do it.
absolutely. Cracking answer. I'm going to one quick fire question left, and I think
Okay.
it's all right if I haven't managed to get your questions to John. I'm sure if you reach out to him on any of his social media channels, he can't shut up about this stuff. He'll answer any
Okay,
questions
that's
you
true.
need. Last question is from Vic, actually, and I think this relates to a lot of the target audience of Fair Collective. If you were starting DM at a small charity with limited budget, what would be the very first small step be? What's the first thing you would do?
Well, the first thing you need to determine is the list is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Is trying to at least determine who are the 5 people we're gonna talk to today, and then figure out what are these 5 people. What do we think they're gonna be able to rally behind in terms of like what are we asking them for, and like why should they care about it? So that's those are the most important things all the time is who are we talking to and what do we ask them for? Because you're doing something going, why me and why now? Why are you mailing this into me now? Why should I care? I've got grandkids, I got stuff going on in my life. Why should I care about this right now? You need to be able to answer that question of any size all the time. So even if you're doing a 200,000 piece mailing, you better know who are you mailing and why should they care about that very important thing to you? Maybe it's not important to them. So why should it be important to them?
Phenomenal answer. Thank you, John. I'm just going to hand back to Vic in case she wants to say goodbye, but lovely to spend some time with you.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks so much.
I don't really want to say goodbye. I just want to stay and chat for the rest of the afternoon or the rest of your morning. But yeah, there's lots of love in the chat, John. We'll be sure to send that to
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Super, super interesting. And yeah, I think in small charity world, it's very easy to think like this is not an income stream for us. This doesn't apply to us, but I can really see how actually it can be. And just by starting with that list of 5 people or that list of 10 people, I know the impact that I feel receiving a thank you postcard, handwritten at the end of a year from a small charity that I donate to. And I know that I give to them more than I give to others. So I really hope that the organizations that we've got on the call, the people that we've got on the call, that you're feeling inspired, even if you are a smaller organization with a limited budget. And yeah, do grab a copy of John's book and delve further into your DM learning journey. And thank you so much, John, for getting up at the crack of dawn to
My
be
pleasure.
here with
My
us.
pleasure.
And massive thanks, Wayne, as well, for handling
Thanks,
the
Wayne. Yeah.
questions and really contributing to that. And thank you, everyone, for giving us some of your time. Enjoy the rest of your day and be sure to keep in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
See you. Thanks so much. See you later. Thanks for the inspo juice. I love that. You're welcome, Mags. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.